Welcome to this Dunham & Company podcast. A conversation with social media expert Giovanni Gallucci. Your co-hosts are Brad Davies, Director of Web Services, and Greg Gorman, Senior Communications Strategist for Dunham & Company. Now let's join the conversation.
So I'm working with this client. They just redoing the website, working on copy, looking for input. Haven't really considered SEO. They're in a space that's pretty occupied by the same search term a lot of people have already captured on, and they kind of are behind the ball as far as where do we start, how do we get going. You know, we've already walked through and looked at some of the words that are in their copy that they want to rank for. Looked at the competition there, talking about including that into the copy so that it fills out the sites and becomes a subject matter expert. But what are those other kind of next steps they need to be considering that they should be talking about?
Can I interrupt before you start?
You may.
So the thing that caught my ear was the words they want to rank for. And my first thought on that would be, it doesn't matter what they want to rank for, it's what they need to rank for and what people are searching on. So if a client comes to you and gives you a list of the words they want to rank for, you look at that list, and that's a starting point. But if a word they choose that they want to rank on is not getting any traffic, there's no harm in ranking for that, but there's certainly no benefit, so what's the point? And so when you've got someone coming at you, and whether they've created the copy themselves or you're doing the copy and they've given you a list, the thing you step back from is not what's the next step. It is, we need to take this list of keywords, see where they rank in Google, see how many searches are done each month, see what kind of competition we're up against, and then look for synonyms that mean the same thing. Look for, what is your client's, top 3 competitors in the space, and look at what they're ranking well for, look at the keywords that they're getting traffic on, and do some research. And it doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter if you do that research before they write the copy or not, because I would typically go to a client and tell them, just do that search, just do that research, whether you've started on the copy or not, because I want the copywriters to be free of any burden of being worried about a list they have to write to. So you get them to write the copy for the website, then you do the research on your keywords, and then you take the keyword list that you've decided upon, and you're usually looking for about 2 keywords per page, or 2 keywords for, say, 300 to 500 words. And then you find places that those words would naturally fit into the copy, and you take that approach.
But as we've identified these, how much do we literally change the scope of the website? Because we know that there's certain terms that they want to rank for and they need to rank for as far as search.
That's something I think.
And so how much do we change the page titles,
even the featured content.
Yeah.
That's something I think ministries generally, nonprofits really generally broadly defined, have not engaged in. They want to have just like we were talking before, a ministry wants to, here's the terms we want to rank for, because this is what we believe, this is who we are, this is who we believe that we are. Whether the marketplace agrees with that, who knows? We'll find that out over time, and we'll find that out by using, looking at your analytics and looking at search terms. How do people find you? We deal with that all the time with organizations that have, some have lots and lots and lots of content. Some have great multimedia content, sermon videos, sermon audio, devotional videos, audio, some have sermon notes and documents that are really, literally giant databases. And the way that they present those, and what I use the term merchandising, the way they merchandise that content on their sites is the way that they use terms that they use. It's all inside baseball. If you ask them in a conversation if they use inside baseball or jargon, absolutely not. No, we love our customers. We love our constituents, and we want to speak their language. When we proclaim the gospel, we proclaim it in the language of the people we're talking to. We want to be Pauline in that. We want to be all things to all people. Well, then why does your media merchandising on your site break things down by DVDs, MP3s, and PDFs? Who in the world goes to a website saying, I loved the message that ministry provided to me last week. I hope they have a DVD.
Or a PDF.
Or a
no
PDF.
less.
I sure hope they have a PDF. You know, I don't care if they have a devotional email I can sign up for, but by gum, if they've got a PDF, I'm golden. But we see that time and time and time again, and even in sites that are probably a little more mature in that, and a little bit farther down the road, that they'll decide, well, we're going to use, we're going to merchandise our sermon content, our message content, using keywords. Okay, great. And even on the homepage, and even with little thumbnail images to make it, really visually appealing. And we're going to use terms like, this is a media ministry that I'm talking about, television, radio ministry. We're going to use terms like the Trinity. What were some others that we saw? Things like that the average viewer, if they're going to come to your
I'm
website,
always searching for the Trinity online.
I can't wait to get more Trinity in my life. And I'm not discounting the value of solid
because
Christian
that's
doctrine.
factually accurate.
It is, exactly.
It's not that it's wrong. It's that there's a more right way to do it. And it gets back to, and the thing, this is not hard work. And I think that's part of the thing that working with organizations that do this stuff, they think that it's so daunting. And for us, it's easy because we do it every day. Mm-hmm. But it's really, when I show clients what we do 2 or 3 times, they can do it by themselves.
Right.
But you've got to go and do it. And Google will tell you, it's not a secret.
Listen
it's
to Google.
It's free, and Google tells you this is how people will look for your content.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they can't use the phrase the Trinity, but it means they have to use other phrases also so that when people search for the content, it shows up in the engine.
Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. People that are searching their site aren't looking like they can rank for the Trinity, but people that are going to find that
let's look at
looking for their content.
Let's look at your
audience
analytics. How many hits have you had to your website based on things like that? And the Trinity was probably one of the least arcane terms that I saw on that particular site. But we see this all the time, and it's not just limited to terms of Christian doctrine. It's all kinds of terminology that the organization uses, and they all use their internal jargon. And we often engage them in a website redesign project where we get dropped in as communications strategists, sort of midstream. They've already selected a design and development shop to do the site, and they're going to essentially, that design and development shop does not have a copywriting arm. Mm-hmm. They either can't afford it or don't offer it, or it's not even on the table. And so the organization says, well, we'll just use the copy we have on our current site, and we'll just dump that in.
That's easy.
That's perfect. Well, it's perfectly, you can have a very sharp tool aimed the wrong direction, and you're not going to get anywhere with it. So
you can have a very dull tool in the right direction.
Right.
Still won't
Either way.
get anywhere.
Yes. And so we have turned a corner in our conversations with our clients now, where we engage them on these sort of broadly defined copywriting strategies, really at the outset, and where we want the outbound digital marketing to match the inbound digital marketing to the extent that it can, but we want everything to match well in terms of using the terms that the customer uses as opposed to terms the organization uses.
So roll back 5 minutes when you mentioned the DVD, MP3, PDF. So most of the people watching the video are going to go, so
that's us.
What would be the alternative? What would be the more effective path to solving that specific issue?
Well,
how would you promote that content?
That's a great question, and the first thanks for the softball. And the first part of the next conversation that we have in those settings is often, we can just use the titles of the messages, which is a really earnest and noble thought. Most of the sermon message titles that we encounter are titled for piquing interest, not describing deliverable. Look at any so-called mega church today. Look at their website, look at their television program, look at their billboard, their sign out in front of their church. Next Sunday, Pastor Smith is going to talk about Sex and the City. Well, that was a popular HBO TV show. And why? And gosh, people will be curious, so they'll come in. Well, just use that title in your sermon search keywords in your site and see how many hits you get on that. Probably not very many. So it ends up having to be more of a deeper look, a deeper analysis of the content of the message, of the commonly used terms in all the messages, not just we want people to get this message. Because if you've got a search engine on your site, which I hope you do, you can usually manually rank high importance more highly in the search results. So we think that it takes a little more work long term. It takes a little more heavy lifting at the outset to get there, but it's worth going back and looking at those things. And you can do that in an automated fashion. You don't have to, if you've got transcripts of the sermons, if you've got PDFs, if you've got sermon notes, that type of thing, you can use that as a basis, and you can do some cobble together search algorithms of your own within those to generate that content, and then you back into your merchandising of the products. You back into, well, what do people talk about? What do we talk about the most? What are the things that we get the most interest in? You can start with broad topics and go down to actual specific sections of messages. You can start with broad sections of the Bible and go down to specific passages that people that speak to specific issues in people's lives. And I'll bet that you could narrow the top 10 issues, the top 10 even search strings for your average website visitor for any ministry. I'll bet you could narrow that down fairly quickly into terms that they would use, not terms that you say, well, that's our sermon on tithing. Well, most people who are new to the church or who are casual in the church, the concept of tithing is not one that they're going to respond to quickly. No. The concept of stewardship, however, the concept, and not even the word stewardship, but money, budgeting, spending too much, saving, credit cards. Yeah. I wonder how many ministries actually use those kinds of terms in their onboard search strings, let alone their SEO.
It's a shame because there's so much low-hanging fruit there, and they're leaving so many potential visitors to the site, which then a portion of those will be convert somehow for them. That they're leaving that on the table because there's no thought towards it, or there's a fear of it. And we were talking about organization here in Plano earlier, and I personally have the mindset that you run to where people need to hear the word. And if you're always preaching to the choir, you're using the terminology where you're preaching to people that are already
in the flocks.
They're already for you. Then your website serving as a nice billboard for those folks, but it's not doing anything good for the faith. And so the point here is that you're doing things that bring new people into the fold. So you've got to be using terminology that they're going to be using to help them find out ways that the word and that the message will help solve problems in their lives and help them live a better life.
We hope you've enjoyed this Dunham & Company podcast. This podcast is a presentation of Dunham & Company Audio and is copyright 2011 by Dunham & Company. Learn more about us and find other podcasts and webinars at dunhamandcompany.com.